Okay, we'll start. Om Gananam Tva Ganapatim Havamahe Kavim Kavinam Upamasravastamam Jyeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Hrunvannotibhis Siddhasadanam. Om Shri Mahaganadhipataye Namaha. Om Vrishabham Charshaninam Vishwarupamadabhyam Brahaspatim Varenyam. Om Tad Vishno Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Surayah Divi Vachakshoratatam. Om Shlim Dhim Jyotirbrahmaya Namaha. Can everybody say Hare Ramakrishna 3 times? Om Hare Ramakrishna, Hare Ramakrishna, Hare Ramakrishna. So where are we? 5th house or 5th lord? 5th lord, 7th house. 5th lord in the 7th house, okay. Okay. So we'll see the 5th lord in the 7th house. Sute se saptame mani sarva dharma samanvitaha putradi sukha yuktascha paropakarane ratah. Sute se saptame mani. Sute se saptame. If the 5th lord is in the 7th house, mani. Mani means he is a honorable, a respected person. Sarva dharma samanvitaha. Sarva dharma samanvitaha means one who is endowed with all kinds of dharma, which means one who is a very dharmic person. Okay, so we'll go downstairs. We'll go downstairs and continue.
Schedule wise, I think they cancelled. They have the class.
How do I pause this? Slide to unlock. Okay. Press to. Okay. We'll continue. So where are we? Sute se saptame. We are in the 5th lord in the 7th house. Okay, we'll continue. Sute se saptame mani sarva dharma samanvitaha putradi sukha yuktascha paropakarane ratah. Sute se saptame. If the 5th lord is in the 7th house, mani means respected, honorable. Sarva dharma samanvitaha means one who is endowed with all kinds of dharmic behavior. So somebody who is very religious, very pious, etc. Putradi sukha yuktascha. He has putradi sukha means happiness from children, etc. So he is very lucky with respect to children. He has comfort from children. Paropakarane rataha means helpful to others. Okay, let us parse each of them. Now, why is he respectable? Why is he honorable and respectable if the 5th lord is in the 7th house? Why is he respected? Yeah, from 10th house. Lord in 7th house. Okay, 7th house is the house of interaction with people in the society, and for me 11th from 7th, and also 5th house is the house of recognition, etc. So there is a link between recognition and there is a link between recognition and interactions. So he is somebody very active, he interacts a lot with people, and he is kind of popular because of it.
Well, for being respectful means he must have done something to them, some
Right. The thing is, if you take the 10th house as Lagna, because that's what we've been doing whenever we see the word Mani. From the 10th house as Lagna, this is actually the 8th lord in the 10th house. So it could be sudden gain in the respect in the society, or it can also be some bad name in the society. That is also a possibility, right? So based on that analysis, it's not really tallying. So this is a different kind of, even though he used the same word Mani compared to some other context, this is a different kind of result being talked about. Here what is being talked about is 5th lord in the 7th house. So somebody who deals with people and who is well known in the circles basically. But people may or may not be thinking greatly about his accomplishments. He may or may not have accomplished a lot of things. Because 10th house, with respect to 10th house, this planet is not well placed. But with respect to 5th house and 7th house, the planet is well placed. So the context in which this result can be interpreted is different here compared to other verses we have seen. Sarva dharma samanvitaha. He is accompanied by all kinds of dharmas. He is very religious, very pious. Why? Yes, the planet has Argala on the 9th house. From the 9th house, taking the 9th house of dharma as Lagna, this planet happens to be the 9th lord in the 11th house. Is the 9th lord's placement in the 11th house good or bad? It is awesome. 9th lord is 9th is protection, fortune, bhagya. So with respect to the 9th house of dharma, this planet shows the fortune of it. And he is in the 11th house of fulfillment. So it is absolutely awesome indication. So as far as 9th house is concerned, it is really blessed by this particular planet's placement. So he is very dharmic, very pious, very religious, righteous and all that. Putradi sukha yuktascha. He is endowed with progenic happiness from children. Why? Why putradi sukha? Well, it's the 5th lord. 5th lord shows what kind of children you have, right? He shows your children, and he is in a quadrant. He is well placed in a quadrant. Secondly, A5, if you see the tangible manifestation of the 5th house. If you see A5, where is it? 9th house. So Arudha of any house, if it falls in the 9th house or 5th house or any trine, that house, that Arudha is blessed. So there are good children. Moreover, if you take the 4th house of Sukha, this planet has an Argala. The 5th lord is in a quadrant from Lagna and he has Argala on the 4th house of Sukha. So he is feeding the comfort of the person. He is making the person comfortable, happy, peaceful and all that. And of course his agenda is to give good children, give good results to children. So he is having an influence on his comfort. So he is happy with children. He is very comfortable and peaceful with respect to what his children are doing in life. Now Paropakarane Rataha. Why is he engaged in helping other people? How do you see other people helping other people? Well, other people is 7th house in general. So from the 7th house as Lagna, this planet is 11th lord in Lagna. Is 11th lord's placement in Lagna good? 11th shows fulfillment, gains, getting what you desire, right? So, and this is from 7th house, not from Lagna. So basically, he plays a role in people, other people, getting what they want, what they need, fulfilling their desires. So he helps in the fulfillment of other people's desires. So he is somebody who is engaged in Paropakara, helping other people, doing good deeds to other people. The next verse. Sute Sherandra Bhavasthe Swalpa Putra Sukhanvitaha Kasasvasa Samayuktaha Krodhi Sukhavadjitaha. Okay. Sute Randra Bhavasthe. Randra means 8th house. Whole. Randra literally means whole or vulnerability. It is basically the house of death, the 8th house. So the 5th lord is in the Randra Bhava, 8th house. Swalpas Putra Sukhanvitaha. He is accompanied by Swalpa Putra Sukham. Means Swalpa means little. little happiness from children, which means not really. When you specifically say little, it means it's not much. So he's not really very happy with children. He has some unhappiness with respect to children. Kasa svasa samayuktaha. Kasa means cough. Swasa samayuktaha. Kasa svasa means basically cough, allergies, bronchitis, asthma, this kind of breathing disorders. So he has difficult breathing, samayuktaha. He is accompanied by very problematic and difficult breathing. So basically breathing disorders he has. Krodhi cha sukhavajyataha. Krodhi means angry young man or angry old man, basically angry person. Sukhavarjyataha. Why are you laughing? I don't know if he has fifth lord in it. I think he does. I know, but I think he has fifth lord in the 8th house. He is Aquarius Lagna, Mercury in Virgo. Of course, he is not just fifth lord in the 8th, he is also 8th lord in the 8th. So, it's better. 5th and 8th lord in the 8th. He does have it anyway. But I didn't mean that when I said angry young man. When I said angry, I just wanted to add young man there. It could be old man also. And of course, Amitabh Bachchan is now very old. Krodhi, angry, cha sukhavarjyataha means devoid of any comfort, no, unhappy, uncomfortable, wretched person. Okay, obviously because 8th house is the house of death and house of anxiety, house of tensions, the trine lord going into a dusthana like 8th house, obviously the results will be bad results. Swalpa putra sukhanvita, not many children. Why? Why not many children? Tommy? House of death. Yeah, house of death. He is weak. Where is A5? In the other case we said A5 is in the 9th house. Where is A5 here? Arudha cannot be in the house or the 7th from it. 5th Arudha cannot be in the 5th or 11th. Right? When the Arudha of a house is, when the Lord of a house is in the 4th from it, the Arudha also is in the 4th itself. Because you take 4, another 4, but that will be 7, so you take 10th there from. So you basically get the same house. So 8th house. So A5 in this case is in the 8th house. So if the Arudha of any house is in the 8th house from Lagna, it's not really auspicious. So with respect to children, there can be some problems. So either he doesn't have children, or difficulty in getting children, or he gets children but they are not really making him happy, they are keeping him tense all the time, which is one of the results of 8th house, not just death but tension. So he has tensions relating to children.
I'm sorry, the previous one, right, it's not in 7.
Yeah.
He had some notes. There is some tall, the stuff in terms which speak only truth. How do we interpret that?
What?
There is some note there.
Yeah.
Why?
That is Santanam's note.
Yeah, how we can interpret that kind of.
I don't know, but I'm not really interested. This is Santanam's result, the result given by Santanam. Let's just stick to what Parasa said. He didn't say talk about tall at all. Oh, tall in stature, he said. Will only speak truth. Well, whether he speaks truth or not, Parasa did not really say. He only said he is helpful to other people. Let us ignore. I don't know. See, the thing is, he is not putting that kind of notes everywhere. For this particular thing, he put a note. So, well, maybe he has that combination. I don't. Huh?
So somewhere he put note, but here because my fifth lord in the 7th house.
Yeah, he probably has his fifth lord in the 7th house. I'm being disrespectful. Seriously, we don't know exactly why he added it, but it's just funny that there's no this combination. He should have some note, which has nothing to do with what Parasa said. If it is approximately what Parasa said, you are extrapolating, that's a different thing. But what he said. No, he is talking about fifth lord in 7th. There are already some good results, like he is helpful to other people, he is very dharmic. In addition, he said he is tall in stature, he will be honest in serving his employer, his dealings will be honest. Like that, he is basically adding some, he will only speak truth. Usually for speaking truth, 2nd house, Lagna, these are involved rather than 5th house, etc. So he is adding some results there, and I'm wondering why he added some results just for that house. That's why I was just disrespectfully speculating whether he or whoever helped him with this translation had that combination and they wanted to feel good about the combination, or seriously that was a that was a mischievous note. But seriously, he may have actually culled out, when he was doing this work, he may have culled out some other classic like Bhavat Ratnakaram or something. Maybe for fifth lord in the seventh house there is a result given there, he just added it as a note here. But the thing is, let us just ignore it, let's just stick to what Parasara said. But it's not really surprising. The person, honesty and truthfulness, I am not sure, but in general he will be a righteous person. Okay, fifth lord in the eighth house. Now coming to fifth lord in the eighth house, like you said, it can also give positive results. Fifth lord in the eighth house, see, I have my fifth lord in the eighth house. My Lagna is Virgo, the fifth lord Saturn is in Aries, and it was during the Saturn Dasha that all the materially good things happened to me, like coming state first, getting two BA degrees in Sanskrit, 1 BA degree in Hindi when I was 10 and 11, state first, going to IIT, coming to US, everything basically, getting a master's, all these things, and having a 9+ GPA out of 10 in IIT Madras, everything, all the academic distinctions, everything happened in the Saturn Dasha. Now the thing is, if the, pardon me? Even if he is debilitated, he has Nijabhanga Raj Yoga. Yeah. Not necessarily. If there is a Nijabhanga Raj Yoga, the planet who has Nijabhanga Raj Yoga can give the result of Raj Yoga. Not necessarily the planet who resulted in that Nijabhanga. So Saturn can give. But what I am saying is, he is saying one kind of results here. For fifth lord in the eighth, he is giving only negative results. But like he said working hard, somebody who can be workaholic, for scholarship. Fifth house is the house of scholarship. The lord is in the eighth house of working hard. Somebody who can be a workaholic, who can work hard to get scholarship, that is one of the possibilities. And fifth house is the house of mantra, eighth house is the house of sadhana. Somebody who can do intense sadhana, basically somebody who can sit for a long time basically without worrying about anything and just do the mantra, that is a possibility. And in my case, fifth lord is scholarship, recognition for education. So fifth lord is, see, fifth lord in the eighth house will have Argala on the fifth house. So the lord has Argala. In my case, because it's Saturn, he also has Grahadrishti. So Grahadrishti and Argala. So basically fifth house becomes strong from that point of view. And of course, it's not just that. If you look at the house of education, he is in an Upsaya, he is in the third house. So there are other factors as well. It's not just this Rasi chart. But bottom line is, he ended up giving good results. So that is also possible. Fifth lord in the eighth will have Argala on the fifth house. So it can give good results. Also fifth lord in the eighth will have Argala on the seventh house and 10th house. Seventh house is the house of interactions. 10th house is the house of karma. And the fifth house is the house of scholarship. So the planet who has the key to your scholarship, he has an influence, a strong influence on your karma actions and your interactions. So maybe you will use your scholarship in your interactions and your karma. That is a possibility. So there are tens or hundreds of possibilities. What Parasara said is just one possible result. Now the other thing is Kasasvyasa Samayuktaha. He has breathing problems. Why breathing problems? Why problems relating to lungs, etc.? Why? Where do you see lungs, etc.? For me? Okay, fourth house is lungs. Fourth house is lungs or third house is throat and lungs? Fourth house is definitely heart. Where do you see lungs and breathing system basically? Third or fourth? Yes. So third house is the throat and basically the upper respiratory tract. That whole thing is third house. So if you take the third house here, this particular planet who is in the 8th house of long suffering from Lagna, he is in the 6th house from third house. So he can have ear problems. Third house is ears. He can have ear problems, and third house is also throat. So he can have throat problems, he can have nose problems, he can have in general ENT problems, ear, nose and throat kind of problems, and especially respiratory tract problems. So this is definitely a possibility if a planet is basically in the 6th from the 3rd house. But the thing is, he didn't give this kind of result everywhere. Every planet will be in the 6th from some house. That planet can give disease relating to that house, signified by that house. For example, a planet in the 7th house would be in the 6th from 2nd house. 2nd house shows eyes. So there can be some eye problems, or it can be face. There can be some problem in the face. It can give. The only thing is, it has to, otherwise, apart from the house occupied, otherwise it should show some, it should have some role giving disease. Here the planet is in the 8th house itself, so you know that it can give some disease. So he saw, okay, he is in the 6th from 3rd house, so let me say he has this kind of problem, right? And as a matter of fact, in my case, actually during Saturn Dasha, during Saturn Rahu, I did actually get allergic bronchitis. I basically had breathing problem for a while, for several years actually. Only after Mercury Dasha started, I basically discovered Ayurveda and I basically cured myself using Ayurveda. Until then, basically for like 10 years or so, I at least between 5 to 10 years, or maybe around 8 years or so, I basically had allergic bronchitis. So whatever he said here was actually true in my case, with the 5th lord in the 8th house.
Another that I think is 5th lord and 8th, that we have seen in the class also, is an asthma.
That is definitely, yeah, bronchitis, asthma, these are all similar diseases. They are some kind of affliction to the breathing system, to the upper respiratory tract. Okay. Now why is he krodhi? Why is he angry? Why is he angry? Well, 8th house is in general the house of anger.
It's the house of emotion.
Yeah. Earlier I said that it has, yeah, Argala on the 5th house of emotions. The planet owns the 5th house of emotional stability and he is in the 8th house of anger. So the person can be angry, can be short-tempered. 7th is, like I said earlier, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. These show basically Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Matsaryas. So Krodha is from the 8th house. And actually in my case, I was actually quite short-tempered. Not that I am not now, but I was, at one point I was very short-tempered. Especially in my case, this Saturn is in Aries. Aries is a sign owned by Mars and Mars was actually there along with him. So I was quite short-tempered. So, for me, Saturn doesn't really give a lot of short temper. It can give stubbornness, but the thing is, we are talking about Krodha is actually that impulse of, that fiery impulse. So Saturn is not really that conducive to making a person angry. Mars is. But even though the planet involved was Saturn in my case, because he was also with Mars and in a Martian sign especially, it happened in my case. So this Khasasvas Samayuktaha, Krodhi, both the results basically happened in my case. Sukhavarjitaha. Sukhavarjitaha means somebody who has no happiness, somebody who has no peace or comfort, somebody who is always either unhappy or working hard. And it is, why so? The 8th house is the house of anxiety, tension. So it's not the house of being happy, it's the house of working hard, being tense, being anxious. So it is likely that the planet in charge of emotional stability is in such a bad house, a house of tensions. So he is probably always tense and not really relaxed or happy. So there is no relaxation for the person. The next verse.
One question.
Yes.
If there are two planets, suppose 5th house is for Mars and Ketu owns that house.
Okay.
And how do we get the one house in third, one is in third?
Yeah, look at both the results. The bottom line is these results are not going to apply in toto anyway. Forget Mars and Ketu. Even if you have only one owner, suppose Lagna is Sagittarius, Mars is the only owner of 5th house, still if he is in the 8th house, you can't really say apply all these results in toto. They are just guidelines. So you have to analyze. So
if you take them into, even if you take these as a guideline, still you see who is stronger. Right?
right, that's what I am saying. So there is so much other stuff you do. Who are in the 5th house, who have Argala, where are the Karakas, etc. You will look at so many things. And of course there you will see the stronger of Mars and Ketu. The weaker may also have some result, but the stronger will definitely dominate. The next verse, Sute se bhagyage putro bhapo, bhapo, bhupo probably. Sute se bhagyage putro bhupo vatat, it's probably bhupo, the bhapo is bhupo, bhapo doesn't mean anything. Sute se bhagyage putro bhupo va tatsamo bhavet swayam va granthakarta cha vikhyatah kuladipakah. Sute se bhagyage, if the fifth lord is in the ninth house, putro bhupo va tatsamo bhavet means, his translation is, I don't agree with his translation. He translated as the native will be a prince or equal to him. But the thing is, that is not, it doesn't make any sense. What actually the verse means is, if the fifth lord is in the ninth house, putro bhupo va tatsamo bhavet, the child will be either a king or equivalent of that, an equal of that will become. That is what it means. So, the son of the native, this result is about the son of the native. So, if the fifth lord is in the ninth house, one of the sons of the native will be a king or an equal. He will be very powerful. Okay? Swayam va grantha karta cha, or va means or, swayam, himself, he himself. This is clearly saying that the previous line was about the child, not about the person being a prince or king. Or himself a grantha karta cha vikhyatah. Grantha karta means a writer, an author. Vikhyatah means famous. Kuladipakah means one who basically brings name to the family, name to the lineage. And of course, Granthakarta, what you have to realize is, writing a Grantha, writing a book, is basically, it is showing somebody who is famous. I mean, the emphasis is not really on writing a book, the emphasis is on somebody who is basically famous, who does things. In the old days, one of the very few ways to become famous was to actually learn a lot of things, and whatever you learn, put it in a book form, teach it to other people. That was basically a way to become famous. So that is why I believe he is using the word Granthakarta. Anyway, let's go back to the beginning. So if the fifth lord is in the ninth house, son is a king or an equal. Why? Well, ninth house is the house of fortune, and fifth house is the house of child. So all you can say is child is extremely fortunate. It doesn't necessarily mean he is king, but it means he is in a very good position in life. Children come to very good position in life. That's the bottom line. Pardon me?
My father should have this. The king.
Yeah.
Sunny the king.
Right. Swayam va granthakarta cha, or himself is a granthakarta. Himself is a granthakarta. Means acha vikhyatah kuladipakah. So somebody who brings good name to the family. Why? Why is he famous? If the fifth lord is in ninth house, why is the person famous? Yeah, A5. Yes, Pada. Falls in Lagna. Moreover, the fifth house of fame, his lord is in a trine. It's very auspicious, so the person is very famous. He is very well known. He has good following.
But what is it got to do with writing? Because
Does it really have anything to do with writing? Is there any link with the writing? Third house of communication, if you see, from the third house of communication, this planet is in the seventh house, he is aspecting it, so maybe there is a chance. The fifth lord who gives reputation is aspecting third house, so maybe there is some reputation through writing. But the thing is, whether that is the case or not, or it is through some other third house meaning, bottom line is he gives fame. That is the bottom line. He is well known, he is fortunate. As far as following and fame are concerned, the person is fortunate. Kuladipakah, somebody who basically increases the name of the family.
Kuladipak, does it also mean the highest land in the family?
Not necessarily. See, not necessarily highest land. Deepa means light. So somebody who brings रोशनी लाता है, basically. To say in Hindi, जो रोशनी लाता है सारे family को. So somebody who brings light to the family, means who makes the family known to the world, which is basically possible if you are famous. You are famous, the world talks about you and your family. So that way. So why let's go to the next verse. Sute se rajya bhavasthe, will it be a good result or bad result? Can somebody guess? Fifth lord in the 10th house. Excellent. Yeah, there is a link between a trine and a quadrant. So Seshu's guess is that it's a good result. Anybody disagrees? Not really. Okay. Sute se rajya bhavasthe, raja yogo hijayate, aneka sukha bhogi cha, khyata kirtir naro bhavet. Sute se raja bhavasthe. If the fifth lord is in the 10th house, in the house of kingdom, raja yogo hijayate. It results in a raja yoga. It results in combination of a king. Aneka sukha bhogi cha. One who enjoys various pleasures. Khyata kirtir naro bhave. Khyata kirti means one who has earned great fame. Naro bhave. The person becomes. Okay. So why does it give a Raj Yoga? Well, it's not really a classical Raj Yoga, but it's kind of like a Raj Yoga because there is a link between trine and quadrant. Trine lord is in a quadrant. So, and the two houses, one is fame, the other is the kingdom, the accomplishments in the society. So you are accomplishing something and you are getting fame for it. So good for you. So it's a good combination. Aneka sukha bhogicha. Why is he enjoying all kinds of comforts? Where do you see comforts from, enjoyments from? Fourth. This planet is aspecting the fourth house. So a trine lord, the fifth lord, is aspecting the fourth house of sukha. So he is enjoying all the sukhas. He has all kinds of comforts. Of course, if you have a Raj Yoga, you will have all kinds of comforts. But especially in this case, because he is also aspecting the fourth house, he may be able to enjoy them. He uses the word bhogi, means one who enjoys, not just one who has. Anybody who has a Raj Yoga, anybody who is like, let's say somebody becomes the president or governor or some high post or CEO of a company, he will have a lot of luxuries at home, but he may not be able to enjoy them. He may be always struggling, always busy. But this person, because the planet also aspects the fourth house, not only gives a Raj Yoga, but aspects the fourth house also, there is a good chance that he will actually enjoy the comforts. Khyata kirtir naro bhave. The person will have earned fame. Why? Well, fifth lord is in a quadrant, fifth house is good, and from the fifth house has Lagna. Where is Lagna lord? In the sixth house, an Upataya. So fifth lord is in an Upataya from fifth house. So he accumulates fame. So various the following, reputation, etc. For me. See, Lagna lord in sixth house is always good for Lagna. It makes the person strong. It makes the person, even if there are obstacles, he will overcome and he will conquer. It makes him a conqueror. Lagna lord in sixth. Here, taking the fifth house of reputation as Lagna, the Lagna lord is in the sixth house, right? So he is a conqueror of fame. So he basically accumulates fame. So he becomes famous, and then he becomes more famous, and then he becomes more famous. So somebody who is famous and also who has an increasing profile of fame. So that is why he uses the word Khyata Kirtihi. Instead of just saying famous, he says Khyata Kirtihi, one who has earned and accumulated a lot of fame. Okay.
Another point.
Yes.
I have this combination.
You have the fifth lord in 10th house?
Mars is in 10th house.
Mars is in 10th house. So
So the aspect I want to add here is the person won't enjoy material comforts. He will
Yeah.
enjoy the best from the 10th house, which is the karmic death.
Mm-hmm.
So from work I derive excellent pleasure.
Good.
So being the 10th house and it aspecting the 4th,
Yeah.
he is deriving the pleasure from the work and not from the material comfort.
Okay.
This is observation.
That is observation in your case. But the thing is, in some other case, he may actually also have a lot of luxuries and he may be enjoying. In your case, the planet is Mars basically. Mars is the planet of action. He is not really the planet of enjoyment. Suppose the planet in question was Moon or Venus or somebody, probably he will have good enjoyments as well. In general, for enjoyment, Moon and Venus are the karakas, and depends on where Moon is, where Venus is, how Mars is linked with them. And in general, Mars is not a karaka for luxuries and enjoyment. He is a planet for action. He is the planet of fire. And enjoyment is, what is the tattva relating to enjoyment? Jala tattva. Enjoyment is of Jala tattva. And Mars basically converts that Jala into steam. So he is not really conducive. But the good thing is, he is the fourth house. He has not only aspects, he is actually a friend of the fourth lord. So at least in general, if from the fourth house Mars is in the seventh, in Manakaraka Sthana, aspecting the fourth house, he can give a lot of discomfort also. But in your case, at least he is a friend of the fourth lord, so it's not bad. You are going to add something.
I'm going to add another point. Because for getting a material benefit,
Yeah.
if he is also aspecting the Lagna, then he would have more benefits to the native, more material benefits, material comforts for the native, apart from fourth. Fourth shows that you are in an environment where you can enjoy. But
Good point. His point is, fourth is the comforts that you possess, and Lagna is basically, if you really enjoy a comfort, you are enjoying it through Lagna. Lagna is the body. So if your physical body is happy, if your physical body is in a good state, there has to be a link with Lagna. So let's say somebody has like this, basically the fifth lord in the 10th house aspecting fourth house, but let us say he is also aspecting Lagna, and let's say he is a friend of Lagna lord, and let's say Moon or Venus is in Lagna. All these basically then clearly suggest that he will enjoy all the comforts very well.
He has to be.
Yeah, in this case Mars is aspecting Lagna also. Mars is aspecting Lagna also. But his main problem is, his Lagna lord is debilitated in the second house, right?
But
If
he
I
is
remember.
retro, so it is equivalent to being good.
Whatever, but he is in Capricorn.
He is in Capricorn.
He is in Capricorn with Saturn. So affliction of Capricorn and Saturn on Lagna lord, that is his main problem. That is why he can't really enjoy that much. That is his main problem.
He will bring Jupiter back to this.
But the thing is, Mars in the 10th house, he is quite good. Mars basically, Mars and Sun, they get good Digbala in the 10th house. So there is a good Digbala. So basically, Mercury and Jupiter, where do they get good Digbala? Which quadrant? Lagna. And Moon, where does he get? Saturn? Venus? Good. Sun and Mars? 10th house. That is where they get Digbala. So with the fiery planets, Sun and Mars, they get Digbala. They get a directional strength in the 10th house of karma. They are the planets of action. They have fire. So if they are associated with the 10th house, that is good for karma. The person has some fire which is conducive to the work. Anyway, so he has that Mars in 10th house with a good Digbala. The next verse is Suteshe labhage jato vidyavan janavallabha granthkarta mahadaksho bahuputra dhananvitah. Suteshe labhage jato. If the fifth lord is in the 11th house, vidyavan, learned person, scholar, janavallabha means somebody who is liked by people. Somebody who is well liked by people, favorite of people. Granthakarta, an author of nice books. Mahadaksho means very capable, extremely capable. Bahuputra dhananvitaha, accompanied by a lot of children and wealth, different kinds of wealth. Okay, fifth lord in the 11th house. Why is he learned? Well, fifth lord is in a quadrant from fifth house and aspecting it, right? So fifth house is scholarship, so he has good scholarship. Vidyavan, Janavallabha, so scholar. And why is he liked by people? Well, from the 11th house of 11th house is the 7th house is other people, 11th house is the emotions of other people. So the lord of that house, from that house, a quadrant lord is in Lagna, 7th lord is in Lagna. So basically, around him, other people feel comfortable, other people feel happy, other people feel emotionally well connected with this person. So other people find it easy to connect with this person at an emotional level, at an interpersonal level. We have seen similar things basically having to do with the 11th house in other cases where the result given was liked by people. So yeah, For being liked by people, 11th house is an important house. Granthakarta, he is a writer. Why?
From
Taking the third house as Lagna,
nine.
he is in the 9th house of protection. So he is a planet who shows scholarship, and he is in the 9th house from, in the house of fortune from communications. So there is a good chance that he will use his scholarship to write something, or at least communicate with people. Mahadaksho means,
I thought well discipline. Daksha means discipline.
no, Dakshata means capability, efficiency, capability, ability to do things. So why is he very capable? Well, 5th house is also the house of abilities. So 5th lord is aspecting the 5th house. So he is very capable of doing things, getting things done. And also because he has good interpersonal strengths with the planet in the Kamatrikona 11th house, people feel comfortable with him. He is very capable of getting things done and organizing, good organizational skills. Bahuputra Dhananvitaha, he has several children. Well, 5th lord in 7th house from 5th house, aspecting 5th house, so he has a lot of children. Dhananvitaha, why does he have a lot of money though? Well, 11th house is the house of gains, so 5th lord, a trine lord is in the house of gains, so he has a lot of gains. But to say he has a lot of money, second has to be involved. So from the second house, what is going on? From the second house as Lagna, this is 4th lord in the 10th house. It's basically good, nothing really fancy, but any planet in the 10th house of action from the second house should give good wealth. But it's not like, oh, he'll be super rich. That is not what it's suggesting.
Second house.
Pardon me?
But you'll have Arjuna in second house.
Who has Argala in second house?
Fifth lord in
He has no Argala, he has reverse Argala.
he's in fifth lord in ninth house. So he
5th lord in 11th house. 5th lord in 11th house.
correct.
11th does not have Argala in second house.
From 11th it is fourth.
Second is 4th. Second has Argala on 11th. The house of wealth has Argala on this planet. But this planet has no Argala on the house of wealth. Right? He has Argala on the 10th house. He has Argala on Lagna. He has, please don't laugh. He has Argala on 10th house. He has Argala on, 8th house, etc. But he does not have Argala on second house. But the thing is, he has a 3/4 aspect on the second house. You can say like that. There is a 3/4 aspect, the 4th house aspect that every planet has. 3/4 aspect on the second house of wealth. That is there. But the thing is, so what we can conclude is, the link with the second house is not that strong. I mean, being in a quadrant from second house is good for wealth. But it doesn't mean he will be super wealth or something. It's not like a trine lord is in quadrant or quadrant lord is in trine. It's just 4th lord in 10th house. It's not really that great. So it's not second house that is really dominating here. It's the 11th house. From the 11th house, a quadrant lord is in Lagna. So 11th house, it's basically talking about gains. It's like whatever he tries, it works basically. Like to use a Telugu saying, Patindi Bangaram Kavatam. Whatever he touches becomes gold basically. That kind of touch he will have. That is what we are talking about when we say he is accompanied by wealth. And where is in this particular case, however, there is one thing basically, one link with the second house. Where is A5? The Arudha of the 5th house, the Kirtipada. Can somebody tell me where is A5 in this case? Second house of wealth. So the Arudha that shows his fame, his tangible fame is in the second house of wealth. So he is actually known for his possessions, his property, his wealth and his resources. He is known for his resourcefulness. So whether he has a lot of wealth or not, he is actually known as a wealthy or resourceful person. Okay. The next verse, the last verse for the 5th lord. Then next class we'll go to 6th lord. Sute sevyaya bhavasthe jatah putra sukhodjitah datta putra yuto vaso krita putranvito thava. Sute sevyaya bhavasthe. If the 5th lord is in the 12th house, jatah, a person born like that, putra sukhodjitah, Jatah putra sukhodhyatah. Such a person will be, putra sukha means happiness from children. Ujjita means one who has been left by that. So he does not have, he is devoid of putra saukhyam, happiness from children. So he has no children, or he has children but children have left him behind, or something. Dattaputra yuto vaso, or Dattaputra yuto means adopted children. Kritaputranvito athava, or Kritaputra means purchased child. He either had adopted or bought a child. Basically, there is something unnatural about child. Why? Well, fifth lord is in a dusthana again. Fifth lord is in a dusthana. Moreover, he is not only in a dusthana, but from the fifth house, where is he? It's not only dusthana from lagna, it's a dusthana from fifth house. So from the fifth house of children as lagna lord is in eighth house. Eighth house shows getting from somebody else, getting easily, that kind of things, right? Getting somebody else's money. So Dattaputra is a possibility for me. Inheriting a child from somebody. So, I mean, that's a loosely spoken thing. But Seshu is right. Bottom line is, it is like getting a child, not your, just getting somebody else's child and making it your child. So from that point of view. So it's basically a bad combination for children. It's not a desirable combination. But you have to be, you can't just generalize. You have to see where Jupiter is, where other planets are, how the Saptamsa is, how the planet in question is in Saptamsa. You have to look at those things. But by itself, fifth lord in the 12th is not really a great combination. Somebody I know has fifth lord in the 7th house. He has Pisces Lagna, Moon is the fifth lord, he is in Aquarius. He had one child who was born autistic, and then another child who was born normally, and then he had a messy divorce. He had a divorce, and then after divorce, basically children lived with his wife, so he doesn't have the happiness of children. And he is married again, and I believe his wife cannot have children, the new wife. So basically he has some problems with children. So this is true in one case I know. But in general, this is a very fundamental result. Fifth lord in the 12th house. You can expect some children problems in this kind of combination. Yeah. Yes. Fifth lord in the 12th house can make the person, the house of bhakti, fifth, the lord of that is in the 12th house of giving up, of surrender. The lord of the house of devotion is in the house of surrender. So the person can, if the sense of surrender can be triggered in that person, he can make a lot of progress. Also from the fifth house of scholarship, the lord is in the 8th house. You can say he has no scholarship, but it can also mean scholarship in occult, scholarship in 8th house kind of things. So astrology, the example that I gave, Moon basically the fifth lord in the 12th house Aquarius, that person is a very good astrologer, very famous astrologer. So it can give scholarship in occult subjects. So there are obviously positive results also. But the thing is, with respect to children, unless there are redeeming features, there can be some bad features with respect to children. One second. So with that we will end. We will do an example. Can you turn this on? Oh, this is off. Hello? Namaskar. I am actually in my astrology class, Manish. Okay. Yeah. Okay, tell me. Okay. Sure. Okay. January 13, 1973. Okay. 4:45 a.m. Pune. Okay. Amit. Okay, name I'll forget the name, but January 13, 1973, 4:45 a.m. Okay. 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 So what is to be seen? Okay, I'll check it out when I go home, Manish. Okay? Namaskar. ఇది ఆఫ్ అయిపోయిందండి, ఐ డోంట్ నో వై. ఓ ఇది క్లోజ్ చేస్తే బ్యాటరీ అవ్వదా? సరే, వైల్ ఐ కుడ్ సీ ద ఛార్జ్ గోయింగ్. I see.
But when it goes to hibernation, sometimes the USB ports don't work, don't get power.
Only network port, not USB.
I don't know, you guys will figure out what happened, but when I tried to press this record button, it was completely white screen. Maybe it was just this.
Will it come back now?
Now it's back, so probably it's fine. మీరేదో ముహూర్తం పెట్టా అన్నారు చూడండి, చూద్దాం.
ముహూర్తం అబ్బాయి ఇది కూడా కావాలా?
ముహూర్తం చెప్పండి చాలు. మఘ, ఓకే.
And I set for March 22nd.
Actually, I start recording. So ఇది still recording. Says low battery, dismiss.
There's something there, then use the back.
Oh, this is not working now.
అందులో ఉంటుంది సార్ కరెక్ట్గా.
ఇది ప్రాబ్లం వచ్చిందండి. దిస్ యా, it actually stopped recording. Now it went into not the record mode but the only charge mode.
I think
boot it basically got turned off. ఇది స్విచ్ చేసినప్పుడు కాసేపు అయ్యాక ఇది బేసికలీ పవర్ ఆఫ్ అయిపోయింది. అప్పుడు ఇది ఇంకా ఉన్న ఛార్జ్ తో రికార్డ్ చేసిన సేపు రికార్డ్ చేసి దిస్ బేసికలీ డెడ్. ఇది పవర్ ఆఫ్ అయిపోయింది. నా యాక్చువల్లీ ఇది ఆన్ చేశాక మళ్ళీ ప్రాబ్లీ బికాజ్ ఐ ప్రెస్ ద బటన్ ఇట్ గాట్ పవర్డ్ ఆన్. Now I had to,
it went into that mode, is it?
yeah, but the thing is probably it has no charge, so I won't be able to boot it with directly.
It's like last time.
Yeah, so we'll probably have to go with this, whatever the quality is.
So just try it.
Yeah. Oh, actually it is up.
Next time if you cast on the charge cheyalada.
Yeah.
అన్నం పెట్టి రావాలి.
Okay, we'll continue. Okay. So చెప్పండి సార్, మార్చ్
22 అండి.
మార్చి 22,
2009.
2009.
And
What is this?
this is Muhurta for Udugu.
Okay.
And the 8:32 is what I said.
8:32 a.m.
AM.
Yeah.
And the place is Duncansville. DUNCANS.
VILLG.
Yeah.
Which state?
Pennsylvania.
Oh. So okay. So we are going to look at a Muhurta example. Seshu basically set a Upanayana Muhurta. Upanayana means the sacred ceremony. Muhurta for somebody with Magha Nakshatra, moon in Magha. And the Muhurta is March 22, 2009, 8:32 a.m. Eastern Daylight. Is it daylight already? Oh, I see. Now they are doing in March itself, 2 weeks earlier. Okay. The Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 4 hours west of GMT. Duncansville, Pennsylvania, which is 78 degrees 26 minutes 3 seconds west, 40 degrees 25 minutes 24 seconds north. Okay. We have done. Oh, I didn't do anything. It came up by itself. Cool.
I didn't. I have a basic question.
Yeah.
See, when we said the government decided, okay, let's move the daylight savings back by, or we'll move it forward by 3 weeks or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So now we are setting it in the second week of March.
Right.
Suppose if it is just a decision, suppose they don't do it, it's sometime in April,
Yeah.
March and or April. So that way this will become an hour ahead or before.
Right. Right.
So is that really going to matter? How does it reflect to us?
Oh, of course. If the person tells us the time is 8:32, unless you know whether the time zone is 4 or 5, you won't know the exact planetary position. So you have to know what it is.
So by taking,
Suppose they are using daylight saving time, but the astrologer who's calculating, he doesn't know that they are using daylight saving time. So the moment in time, forget what you are calling it, 8:32, 9:32, 8:45, forget what you are calling. Unless in the linear scale of time, unless you locate it correctly, you will not get the planetary positions right. So Lagna, planetary positions, everything will be wrong.
So you are respecting time or time? It doesn't time.
You are talking about what?
back with respect to time.
Yeah.
So it is the calculations that are completed along with this, taking this
It's just interpretation. The thing is, if you tell me 8:32 time is 8:32 and the time zone is 4, or if you tell me time is, let's say 7:32 and the time zone is 5 hours west of GMT, they are basically same, right? So basically it is 12:32 GMT. So it makes no difference whether I put 7:32 as the time and say time zone is 5 hours, or if I put 8:32 as the time zone and time and the time zone as 4, the calculations will be identical.
That's what we are getting with the TG anyway.
Right. But the problem will be if somebody tells you the time is 8:32 using a 4-hour time zone, but you interpret it thinking it is 5 hours time zone, you are actually using 13:32 GMT instead of 12:32. So obviously Lagna and all planets will be 1 hour ahead. So it's very important that you should know what the time zone is. And software tries to basically automate it for you. You just enter the time. It assumes that people are logical and they put the standard time. They calibrate their watches for the standard time. Suppose somebody was born on the day daylight saving time kicks in, they forgot to change their clock, and suppose they measure the time using old clock and they tell you the time. You assume that because daylight saving time has already come into effect that day, you assume that they gave you based on the daylight saving time. If you don't take it, your time, the time you are taking, you are misinterpreting the time basically. So your calculations will be wrong. So there is no solution to this. Software tries to help you, but it assumes that people are logical. People use the standards anyway. And unfortunately, people are complicating it. They keep changing this formula. Sometimes it's April, sometimes it's March. They just keep changing. The government keeps on changing the rules. So software programmers have to add all these things. It's a mess. And as a matter of fact, actually, for people who were born a few decades back, it was actually very messy. Before the government regularized everything, some people were using daylight saving time, some people were not using daylight saving time. You didn't know exactly what was going on. It was not binding on people. For a few years, there was a period of time when it was not binding. It was optional, the daylight saving time. So if somebody tells you, I was born at 8:30, God knows if it's 8:30 with a 4-hour time zone or 5-hour time zone. You have no way of finding out. The person who told you the time has to clarify how the clock was calibrated, but they have no clue because it was long back. So unfortunately, we have this kind of issues. So when we see old times, it's not a bad idea to sometimes take 1 hour this way or that way and then see.
Take care of the change timing now?
It does, but like I am saying, there was a period of time. See, when the government regulated, made a clear rule, you have to basically on this date you have to change your clocks, we are all set. Jehora basically takes it into account.
No, I'm asking about from last year they changed the time.
Yeah, it does. As you can see, March 22, it took 4 hours.
Because it takes the clock from
We take the clock from
This is not about clock basically. When I enter the date, see, if I say, let's say February, see, it says 5 now, see, can you see the daylight saving time and stand time are toggling? When I switch between March and April, March and February. If I say February, it is 5 hours. If I say March,
between March and February, but it's only between March.
I know, the date, if you basically change, if instead of 22, suppose I say March 10th, it is still, March 2, yeah, it is 5. So somewhere, it basically, as you basically enter the day, month, date, year, etc., it says, okay, on this year, this date, this time, what is it? Is the daylight saving time active or not? It basically constantly updates that information. So Jehora does it.
You coded the years which changed.
Yeah, this was coded. You guys have pretty much latest code. So this was done like a year back. So you guys, not the previous release, but the one before that. So that was fixed. But what I am saying is, if somebody is born, let's say, I forget the years, but there was a period when there is no rule basically. It was up to people to follow or not follow the daylight saving time.
Couple of states that even didn't change it. For Hawaii, one of them, and Arizona is another one of them.
Yeah.
Arizona, they never changed it.
Yeah. That is fine. But the thing is, if they say you can change or you don't have to change, it's up to you. That's a problem.
Well, that's what Arizona is. The state is that state law you never changed it.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole country was changed by the couple of states.
Indiana, basically, there are some streets. On one side of the street it is one time zone, other side another time zone. It's a total mess. And the thing is, actually, the way I coded it, I had to basically there is actually a complicated curve in terms of the longitude, latitude. On this side of the curve it is one time zone, on the other side. Other places it is basically a straight line. But in that place it's a very complicated, messy curve. You need the exact longitude up to seconds basically, degree, minute, second, and that decides whether the daylight saving time is there or not. Anyway. It's a mess.
Happy with most thing, almost everything.
Yeah.
Except Chandrabala.
Okay. Chandrabala, what is the problem? Because this is 6th house from the natal moon. Is that what you are saying? Okay. It's not a big deal. Okay, let us see the muhurta. Is this a good muhurta for Upanayanam? Shravana Nakshatra is good. Okay.
Shavana happens to be Kshematara.
Okay. So he is a Magha Nakshatra person. Ketu, Shukla, Ravi, Chandra. So that is Kshematara. Shravana is a star owned by moon. So because the natal star is Ketu star, Ketu is Janma. Venus and Sun are Sampat and Vipat. Moon and Mars are Kshema and Pratyek. So moon Tara is Kshematara. So Shravana is a Kshematara, and that is good. Kshema basically means well-being, prosperity, well-being.
And another thing I looked at in this is he wants basically, he had health issues. We looked at his chart now
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
He had health issues and they wanted the Muhurta which is good for the health.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I looked at clean Lagna Suddhi and Saptama Suddhi, 6th and 8th no planets on both D1, D9, D6.
There is one fundamental problem. The way I look at it, when I see this chart, there is one thing that really makes me unhappy.
Sun and 12th house.
Yeah, but whole year Jupiter will be debilitated. We can't do anything about it.
Sun and 12th house.
Huh? Moon is with Rahu, yeah, that is also true. Rahu is at 12 degrees, Moon is at 19 degrees, Jupiter is at 23 degrees. So Jupiter is closer to Moon than Rahu. Moon here, Jupiter here, Rahu here. So Moon is actually, I will say, he is with Jupiter rather than Rahu. So it's not a big deal. It is not desirable, but it's okay. It's moreover, they are the 4th and 9th lord. 4th lord of Sukha, direction, and 9th lord of guidance. So not bad. There is another thing that I am really unhappy with. Lagna Lord is in Badhakasthana, right? Lagna Lord is in Badhakasthana with the 6th Lord of obstacles. But then, for both the planets, yes, for both the planets, 11th house is not a, even though it's Badhakasthana, 11th house is the house of fulfillment of desire. And they are aspecting the 5th house of mantra. This is basically a mantra, mantropadesha muhurta. So, but the problem is the mantra sthana, the main karya sthana is 5th house,
But
when you are doing Upanayanam.
but what happened?
And Savita is sun. Yes.
I actually I noticed that and I chose Vrishabha instead.
Yeah.
But in trying to adjust the timing a little for D6,
Yeah.
it went here.
Okay.
It was like 8:45 or something. It changes in a few minutes.
Okay. Okay. We will not talk about alternatives right now. Just look at this. So the 5th house, when you are giving a muhurta for a mantra, if the mantra lord is in Manakarkasthana, is it desirable? Not really. But the only redeeming factor here is, this is the 12th house. 12th house of surrender and upasana. So the 5th lord of mantra is in the 12th house of moksha. So that way it is not that bad. That is the only redeeming factor. But otherwise, also Saturn is in the Badhaka lord is in the 5th house. When you are doing a 5th house, Shuddhi, Saptama Shuddhi, Lagna Shuddhi, all these things apart, this is a muhurta for mantra. So mantra should be pure. The house of mantra should be clean. Badhaka lord is there. Right? Badhaka lord shows all kinds of obstacles. So Badhaka lord, that too Saturn, he being in the 5th house, he is not really strong in the 5th house. He is strong in Upachayas. 3rd, 6th, etc. 3rd, 6th, 11th. So Saturn's placement, and also Mandi and Gulika, the whole evil gang is in the 5th house of mantra. And in addition, the lord of that house is in Manakarkasthana. So my feeling is, based on this, it is unlikely that he will get anywhere with that mantra. When you give Gayatri mantra to this kid, and this person on that day, yeah, I thought somebody would be in Mrichbhaga. Somebody is. Moon is in Mrichbhaga also. The Lord of Sukha, Moon, who is afflicted by Rahu, like you said, but redeeming factor is Jupiter, he is in Mrichbhaga. He is very close to Mrichbhaga. In general, when key planets are in Mrichbhaga, It is not and moon is very important. Sun and moon luminaries are very important in any muhurta. And moon being in Mrityubhaga is very bad idea to actually pick a muhurta like that. Okay, so I am not really excited by this muhurta for these reasons. And the reason that you outline, moon being in the 6th house from the natal moon, is not really such a big deal. Not a big deal. I mean, for moon being in the 6th from natal house is not really that bad. He's all right. 6th moon is all right.
How is the choice of, for these purposes, how is the choice of taking Janma Nakshatra for this one? For the muhurta?
Janma Nakshatra?
How is the choice of taking Janma Nakshatra?
Janma Nakshatra is usually not preferred, but for Upanayana it's not that bad. Yeah, it's not that bad. So what tithi was it? Krishna Ekadashi. Okay.
But
Yeah. In general, they actually prefer Shukla Paksha rather than Krishna Paksha. But the thing is, it's not, I mean, Krishna Ekadashi is fine. But Krishna Ekadashi, moon is almost zero basically. Moon is very close to being gone. Very close to new moon basically. So usually they prefer when moon is half or more. Usually. But you can't really go by, if you want to go by everything, then they say Uttarayana, it should be Uttarayana, it should be this, it should be that. It becomes very difficult. But that is one of the recommended things. So here, moon is in Krishna Paksha, he is actually in the waning half, close to new moon, and he is afflicted by Rahu, he is in an inimical sign, he is in the house of an Adhishatru, and he is in Mrityubhaga. So moon is very weak, and sun being in Manakaraka Sthana is weak. So both the luminaries are actually weak. So that is actually undesirable.
how is it moving to?
Okay, so you want to try moving it. Okay. Do you guys have any?
In a few minutes, and I put it there, but then
Yeah.
it became
See,
too when
moon is in Mrityubhaga, meaning for a few hours on this side and that side it will still be the same. So we will have to basically take something else. So let us hypothetically say one day later or one day before, how will it be? The one day later is Dwadashi, not really desirable. One day before will be
Uttarashada
Vipattara. Tarabala will not be there. So this is the problem. When we do Muhurta, when everything basically clicks in place, you basically select, but then you see something is bad. Then you have to basically change, then all the things have to basically click together. So it's a bit of problem. But let's see. Suppose we go a few days before. Let's say we go to Saptami, 4 days before, right? Suppose we do this. It is Ashtami actually.
You said because he wanted it after 15th of
March.
March.
Okay.
Because that happens to be the next month.
And before what?
Before April 15th.
Okay. So we have plenty of time.
I choose the 29th, which has also.
You chose 29, we'll go there. So March 29 is his other choice. It's Shukla Chaturthi. Tritiya, Tritiya, Panchami are good. Chaturthi is not that good. What is the nakshatra on this date? Nakshatra is Bharani. How is Bharani? Bharani is in general Yamadharmaraja's nakshatra, not really preferred for most things. It is the nakshatra of death. But let's see what Tara it is. Sampat Tara, right? Bharani is Sampat Tara. 2 days later, suppose we do. March 31, let us say. Then, it is Shashti. So let us say 1 day before. March 30, let us say. If you say March 30, it will be Shukla Panchami. Right? Shukla Panchami is not bad. It is a good tithi. Panchami is a tithi owned by Jupiter. It is a good tithi. Moon is exalted. Moon is strong.
Sun still remains to be in Madhya.
No. Lagna we have to still fix the Lagna. What will be a good Lagna?
Shubha Lagna.
Okay. He likes Vrishaba Lagna. Do you like Vrishaba Lagna? Mars will be in the 10th. Ketu will be in the 3rd. Saturn will be in the 4th house. Jupiter, Rahu in the 9th house. How about it? Not bad actually. Let's say 10 o'clock. So let's say March 30. What Tara is it, by the way? Kritika. Is it a good Tara? Unfortunately, that's a Vipat Tara. So Tarabala is not there.
What was the formula you were calculating Tarabala? Because
Ketu nakshatra is Dharma nakshatra. So Ketu, Shukra, Sun. You know the Vinshatri Dasha order, right? So Ketu, Venus, Sun, Moon, Mars, Rahu, Jupiter. Like that you count. So 1 good, 1 Janmatara, 2 good, 3 bad, 4 good, 5 bad, 6 good, 7 bad, 8, 9 good. That is the formula. So good, Janmatara, good bad, good bad, good bad, good good. Right. So that is how you. So if you remember the Vinshatri Dasha order, you can quickly see. So here it is Sun Tara. Natal is Ketu. So Ketu, Venus, Sun. Sun is the third. So that's Vipat Tara. So Tarabala has bombed. So other things are reasonable, but Tarabala has bombed. Now if you want Tarabala to be good, you have to basically, if you want Tarabala to be good, you can go further ahead. Let's say April 1st, the April Fool Day. Suppose April 1st you take, alright. Then the Tara will be, again it is Mars Tara. So again we have jumped over, no, have we? Yeah, we have jumped over Rohini. We have directly gone to Mars Tara. So this will be Pratyak Tara. So again Tarabala is not good, but this is Saptami Tithi. So the thing is, if we want the one in between, Rohini, we have to go with Shashti. So the problem, so let's see when Tithis are changing, when Nakshatras are changing. So we have to, the good Tithis and bad Nakshatras are coming together and vice versa. So we have to see, Saptami is till 23-28, Mrugashira is only till 13-27. So that means we can actually go back to March 30 and suppose we go for the afternoon Muhurtas. Let us just hypothetically say we are going with afternoon. Then is it possible to get good Tithi and good Tara? But again we may not like the Lagna, but we will take a chance, we will just try it out. If we like it, then we will go with it. So,
but are they usually people do in the afternoon? They don't.
Usually they do in the morning. Usually they do before the noon. But the thing is, it's not really, in my opinion, afternoon is not at all bad.
Evening 4 o'clock or something.
It's not at all, it's not such a big deal. That way, doing in the Krishna Paksha like we were originally planning to, that is actually a worse thing than doing in the afternoon. Pardon me?
Only means they have to be, I think they are.
The only thing is doing in the night will be quite bad. But again, it's not really such a big deal, but usually they don't do in the night. You are talking about sun's mantra. So if we do this, Kritika is still there. Kritika is over at 4:11. After 4:11 will be too long. Moreover, the Lagna will be terrible. So okay, we are stuck. So let us go to, let's say, April 3rd. So because the thing is, it's not like good bad. There is also a good that comes at the end, Mitra, Paramitra. So hopefully there is some hope later on. So let us keep trying. So let's say Shukla Dashami. Let's go to Shukla Dashami, Shukla Ekadashi. 2 Tithis that are good in a row. So hopefully there one of the days Tara will be good. Right?
Change to 5, again 10 a.m.
April 4, let us say, yeah, we can go back to 10 a.m. His favorite Taurus Lagna. Taurus is in general a Lagna that is, Lagnas owned by Jupiter and Venus are preferred because they are benefic Lagnas. And also, if you start anything in a fixed Lagna, it will basically be stable. Fixed Lagnas are for stability and something that will be, that will go on for a while. Whereas if you start a mantra in a mobile Lagna, you will do Aries Lagna especially, you will do with lot of energy, but then the energy will fade away. After a while you will stop doing it. That's the problem with mobile Lagnas. On the other hand, fixed Lagnas, especially Taurus, Vrishabha, you will be like a bull basically, you will just keep doing. So if we do this, this will be, unfortunately, Aslesha Nakshatra. Aslesha is not considered a great Nakshatra, but the thing is, it is basically Sarpa Nakshatra, that is, it is an inauspicious Nakshatra for this kind of things, but let us ignore that for a while, because it has some good things associated with it. When we say Sarpa, Aslesha is owned by Sarpa, it's not just Sarpa, it's not just an evil snake that is waiting to bite you. snake is also symbol of Kundalini Shakti. So Ashesha Nakshatra is actually an important nakshatra for spiritual occult experiences, etc. if other things are conducive. And here Ketu is with moon. Even though he is in a different nakshatra, he is in the same sign. And Jupiter is aspecting that moon. So there are some redeeming features. Yeah, Jupiter is aspecting moon. So let us say Ashesha, we are willing to tolerate Ashesha. And actually not even tolerate, it may be good for this person. And Magha, his moon is in Magha. So now 212. He is in Dudvadasya, but 12th house is not really a great transit of moon. But we are talking about sadhana. So 12th house is actually good from that point of view. So moon, the 12th lord is in the 12th house. From the natal moon, the 12th lord is transiting the 12th house along with Ketu. So given that this is a mantra of Desha, 12th house is important. 12th house of Upasana, 12th house of Moksha is important. So it's not at all bad. And this is Paramitra Tara. So Tara wise, Tara Balam is good. And then finally, the Tithi. What is the Tithi? Shukla Dashami. Moreover, now we have gone past Shukla Ashtami. So moon is closer to being full than, he is more than half full now. He is 2/3 full. So Chandravara is good. Right? And let's see if anybody is in Mruchbhaga, nobody is in Mruchbhaga. Well, house, we can work with it.
Depending upon the aspect, we can ignore, is it, when it's 212, 6, 8, that means?
Yeah, 212, 6, 8 are not really desirable, but the thing is, when the task itself is a 12th house task, 12th is not bad. This is a Murta for 12th house related thing. He is in the 12th house, he is the 12th lord too. 12th lord in 12, look at it as that. 12th lord transiting in the 12th house. 12th lord in 12th is Vimala Yoga, right? This is kind of like that in transit. And he is with the Karka of the 12th house Ketu, right? From the natal moon sign. Now, the only thing you have to really do is, Jupiter being in Nicha, Jupiter is the Karaka for divine things, Vedic things, and this is a Veda mantra. So Jupiter being in debility is unacceptable, but we have no choice. So at least you have to make sure that Jupiter has Nija Bhanga. So that is one criterion. Jupiter must, whatever Lagna you pick, Jupiter must have Nija Bhanga. Actually here, does he have Nija Bhanga irrespective of Lagna? If he already has Nija Bhanga based on moon, we will be all set. Does he have? Huh? From where? Lagna. Yeah, so bottom line is we have to pick a Lagna so that either Mars or Saturn is in a quadrant. Well, they are in mutual quadrant. So you have to pick a quadrant to those. So that Jupiter gets Nija Bhanga Raj Yoga or just Nija Bhanga. Had they been in a quadrant from moon already, you have been all set. Irrespective of the Lagna, they will be Nija Bhanga. So that is not the case. So you have to pick a Lagna in quadrant from Mars. Now, what if we pick Taurus that is suggested? Is Taurus a good Lagna? Well, now Jupiter is the 8th lord in debility, 8th and 11th lord, a functional malefic in debility, that is decent. And irrespective of whether he is a functional malefic or benefic, Jupiter is Jupiter. He is aspecting Lagna. So Jupiter's aspect on Lagna is there, that is good. Jupiter's aspect on Chandralagna is there, that is good. And the 5th house is important for mantra. How is the 5th lord? 5th lord is debilitated. 5th lord is debilitated, but he is aspecting that house. And the 4th and 5th lord are together. And that Lagna lord. Lagna, 4th and 5th lords are all together. Is that good? That is excellent. So there is a nice Raj Yoga between, how apart are they? Jupiter is at, Venus is at 8 degrees, Sun is at 20 degrees, Mercury is at 25 degrees. Sun and Mercury are very close. So 4th and 5th lords are together. So there is a Raj Yoga involving the 5th lord and involving Sun, the Karaka for this mantra, Savitra mantra. So that is good, right? So now the thing is, Mercury has Nicha and he doesn't seem to have Nija Bhanga. Does he have Nija Bhanga? He has Nija Bhanga. The lord of that house, Jupiter, is in a quadrant from moon. So there is a Nija Bhanga. Jupiter is getting Nija Bhanga from Mars and Saturn, and Jupiter is in turn giving a Nija Bhanga to Mercury. And Venus, even though he is exalted, he is actually retrograde. So Venus is actually, Lagna Lord is getting Ucha Bhanga. Lagna Lord is getting an Ucha Bhanga. But the thing is, again, his dispositor is in a quadrant from moon. So in general, Jupiter is, even though he is weak, he is the dispositor of a very powerful Raj Yoga. And Jupiter is in Vargottama. Moon is in Vargottama, Mars is in Vargottama, Saturn is what? No, nobody is in Vargottama. Sorry, I'm putting Rashi. Nobody is in Vargottama. Good. Oh, actually Venus is funny then. Venus is in Ucha and he is in Nicha Navamsa and he is retrograde. So it's actually, Venus is in a funny situation. So normally being in Ucha and being in Nicha Navamsa is Uchabhanga, but he is also retrograde. So it's basically two negatives. So they are kind of cancelling each other. So it's not that bad. Okay. Now this seems fine. Now Saturn is aspecting Lagna. Apart from Jupiter who is aspecting Lagna, Mars and Saturn are aspecting Lagna. Is that good? Mars aspect on Lagna gives determination and some fierceness. And he is the 7th lord. He is a quadrant lord. He is actually a neutral planet. He is not that bad. And for some intensity in sadhana, it's not bad. But what about Saturn? Is Saturn's aspect on Lagna good or bad? It is actually very good in this case. He is Yokarka, 9th and 10th lord. Yokarka Saturn's aspect on Lagna, the two in Taurus, it will make him very patient. It can make him kind of like a tapasvi. So it is actually very desirable. So Rahu and Jupiter are together. The Guru Chandala Yoga is there. That is not good. So there are some negative features also, but overall, I think this looks pretty decent, pretty good. This is the best we can do in this time frame.
Should we see the Navamsa with
Yes.
8 houses?
Now let us see the Navamsa. How is Navamsa?
And how critical is it to keep Lagna Siddhi 6-7 days clean?
Lagna Siddhi?
Or 6-7 days?
See, one thing I will say is Shuddhi, that means cleanliness. It's not emptiness. People always interpret Shuddhi as emptiness. They say Lagna Siddhi, Saptam Siddhi, Ashtama Siddhi. They make sure that those houses are unoccupied and they are happy.
But their lots being in...
Yeah, they have to be basically clean. Here we saw that 9th and 10th lord is basically in a quadrant and aspecting Lagna. And 9th house, even though there is Rahu also there, at least it has Jupiter there with a Nijbhanga. So it is reasonably clean. And 5th house is aspected by the 5th lord who has Nijbhanga. So it is clean. 5th house has Shuddhi. Lagna, it doesn't have Mandiyal, Gurika or anybody or evil planets. And in general, good planets are aspecting it. Either functional benefics or Jupiter is aspecting it. And its lord is actually in a good Raj Yoga. So I will say, whatever Shuddhi is required is there. My main problem with this Muhurta is Jupiter and Rahu combination in the Dharma Sthana. Rahu is in Manakarka Sthana. That is my complaint. But the thing is, we can't really fix a perfect Muhurta. So let us compromise. This seems like the best we can do in this time period. And let's just quickly check the Shashtyamsas. Where is the 9th lord? 9th lord is Saturn. He is in Saumya Shashtyamsa. So that is good. So 9th lord, 9th is the house of Dharma. So 9th lord Shashtyamsa is good. He is in a good Shashtyamsa, in Saumya Shashtyamsa. So that is good. So in general this seems good. Now the only thing I will do is I won't go into Shashtamsa, Ashtamsa, Rudramsa, all the Amsas. But make sure Rashi, Navamsa, Direkana and Trimshamsa. These are the Rashi, Navamsa are basic charts when you are looking at Muhurta. Look at Direkana and Trimshamsa also. Direkana shows how things will play out in the long run, and Trimshamsa shows any big problems that may come up. So look at those. So how is Navamsa?
If somebody is interested in their health,
Yeah.
does this affect their health? Muhurtas like this, or should we look into D6?
D6 is not, see, in Muhurtas actually we are supposed to use only, we are not supposed to use Shodasvargas for Muhurtas. That is only for natal horoscopy. So you can look at it from Rashi chart itself. In the Rashi chart, look at how the 6th house, how the Lagna, etc. are. So Lagna Lord is actually in the 11th house with giving good yoga with the 5th Lord. So it doesn't really show big problems for the health. Right? Now let's see Rashi, Navamsa, Trimshamsa is already here, Drekana is here. Let me also put Dvadashamsa. Okay. Let us see these. How are things? What Navamsa do you want to pick? Leo. Okay, she wants to pick Leo. Yeah. Very good. So let's say 10-10. So if you pick 10-10, Lagna will be, Navamsha Lagna will be Leo. So Taurus Rashi, Leo Navamsha. So this is basically Mrugashirsha Nakshatra. Lagna will be in Mrugashira. Jupiter is the 5th and 8th lord in Lagna. That is good. And he is Jupiter at the end of it. And Mantra Lord Jupiter is in the Lagna. And 12th lord of devotion, surrender, moon is in the 5th house. Saturn and Ketu, 2 male fix in the 3rd house, and Sun, another male fix in the 6th house. And Lagna lord in the 6th house. So these are all well placed. Venus in the 2nd house, that is, he is well placed. For Venus, 2nd house is a good house. 9th has bad influence, Mars and Rahu, but Mars is Lord of 9th. So Yokaraka and Lord of 9th is in the 9th. So luckily, hopefully he can overcome Rahu, and in any case Rahu is 7th Lord. So 7th and 9th Lord in the 9th. So it's actually pretty decent. This Navamsha chart looks pretty decent. Mercury in the 7th house. He is not that good in the 7th house, but let's live with it. So it seems decent. And if you look at the Drashkana, Jupiter in the 9th house aspecting Lagna, and 11th house of fulfillment of desires has all the planets, luminaries, Ketu, etc. So it's basically looking decent.
Right.
So Drashkana looks decent. So I think we can go with this. It looks good. So what I suggest is April 4 is it? Oh, just like that.
Leo, if you say Trimshamsha, this moon has got here Rahu and Ketu.
Moon?
Moon is with Rahu and Ketu.
Yeah. In Trimshamsha.
But is it 9th lord though?
Yeah. See, forget all that. The main problem is 8th house has Saturn and Mars. 8th house is you should basically focus on 6th, 8th in the Trimshamsha. Any serious afflictions there, you have to be concerned about. Here Saturn and Mars are in the 8th house, so that is bad. But in the Rashi, neither of them is actually an evil planet. They are not troublemakers. Mars is a Kendra Lord, Saturn is a Yokaraka. Had the troublemakers of the Rashi chart, like somebody in Vankarasthana or 8th Lord or 6th Lord, if he happens to be in the 8th house or 6th house in Trimshamsha, then you are assured that that planet will give some suffering based on this Muhurta, which is not the case. So Trimshamsha is, if you want to pick a perfect Muhurta, it will never come. You will have to do your Upnayanam when you are like 1000 years old. So the thing is, you basically compromise, and here this is not a bad compromise at all. So like I said, what you have to really look for is in the Trimshamsha, the troublemaking planets, and in the Rashi troublemaking planets, if there is a confluence, if there is a commonality, then you are in trouble. It is not the case here. And moreover, Mercury and Jupiter, 2 benefics are in Lagna in Trimshamsha. So it's not bad at all. So overall, this Muhurta looks pretty decent, especially for a Savitri Gayatri.
And what do you say about Drashkana?
Drashkana, I said Drashkana is how things will play out in the long run. And in the Drashkana, the 11th house is dominating. See, Jupiter is in the 9th house, aspecting Lagna, and 11th house is dominating. 11th house has Sun, Moon, etc. luminaries. So it's pretty good. 11th house is for fulfillment of desire, and this is the chart for long term playing out. So 11th house is strong. So things will play out fine with this mantra with him. So we will do some good sadhana with this mantra. Even in the Rashi, 11th house is dominating. The Raj Yoga that we mentioned actually happens in the 11th house of fulfillment of desire. So there is some fulfillment happening here. Some desires are being fulfilled because of this mantra. So that is a good thing. Let him have that.
In general, now when we look at the Muhurta, what are these the same considerations we give? Of course, we did Muhurta before. But
Yeah.
are these the same considerations we give if it is for a job or if it is for something else?
Well, if it's a job, you would rather focus on the 10th house, etc. Here we are focusing on 12th house, 5th house. 5th house, 8th house also, if you want, you can focus on. 8th house for sadhana, 12th for surrender and moksha, and 5th for mantra.
So in that case, do we then discard 6, 8, 2, 12 relationships in case of Muhurta for a job? In case if moon...
Oh, if moon is in a natal moon is... See, the thing is, it's not just Dvadashas. What you really have to see is, what are good transits? If moon is in 6th house from natal moon, it's not a bad transit at all. It's actually a good transit. Whereas if moon is in the 8th house from natal moon, that's a terrible transit, you should avoid it. If natal moon and the transit moon are if the transit moon is in the 8th from natal moon, that is terrible. But if transit moon is in the 6th from natal moon, that's pretty decent transit. 3rd and 6th are okay. If you look at transits basically, you can see the good transits and bad transits are shown in the software, you can see them basically. So moon should have a good transit. But more importantly for moon, rather than the house transit, the nakshatra transit is important for moon. So it should be in a good nakshatra. The nakshatra by itself should be a good nakshatra, and in addition, from the natal nakshatra, it should be a good tara, like Sampat Tara. In this case, it is Paramita Tara. Now the problem is, some traditional purohits will tell you, if you basically take this muhurta to a priest, he will say, oh, Asresha nakshatra, I won't do, because they have a very negative impression about Asresha nakshatra. It is, for a good reason, it is considered an evil star. But when you are actually starting spiritual sadhana, it is not at all a bad star, in my opinion, especially for somebody with Magha nakshatra, Simharasi. This is not at all a bad star. This is actually a very good star for starting sadhana. It will be very productive for spiritual experiences. And for me, I have moon in Purabhadra, in Kumbha. For me, all spiritual events of note happen during Asresha nakshatra. For without picking any muhurta, I started my Lakshmi sadhana, Lakshmi Ashtotram, reading 108 times every Friday. I just randomly picked a day and started. That Friday it was Asresha nakshatra. Later, when spiritual milestones in my spiritual life happened, everything happened in almost all of them happened in Asresha star. Asresha is, I have a good idea about what Asresha stands for. It is not just an evil star, it is actually the star of Kundalini. It is the star of mystical experiences. So, and here Ketu is there and Jupiter is safeguarding, Jupiter is aspecting. So in my opinion, even though some people may discourage about Asresha star here, it is Paramita Tara, it is the 12th house from natal moon, 12th lord in the 12th house with Ketu. So it is actually a very apt nakshatra and house for moon to be, for the spiritual sadhana to begin. This is really his beginning of the spiritual sadhana. Gayatri Mantra is seen as a social event by many people, but it's really your spiritual sadhana starting. It will open up new avenues. And especially if the person has some spirituality, spiritual combinations in the natal chart, otherwise just give some muhurta, doesn't matter. If the person has spiritual indications, then pick a muhurta which will make him do good sadhana and experience something. Doing sadhana and experiencing something are important.
Suppose if that is not the case, if the person is just, suppose the parents are doing this and the person
Just as a formality, yeah.
then don't care all this, just
Do whatever you feel like. It doesn't really matter. But the thing is, if you see some potential in the chart, I mean, even if the parents don't care, if you see some potential in the chart of somebody basically doing some sadhana, and at the end of it, you want to actually get something out of it. You are doing Gayatri Mantra, some level of detachment, if he is capable of getting inside him, within him, pick a good muhurta for the person. So, good luck.
I just have one doubt. Yes. When you are deciding on a muhurta, father role in Chora.
Yeah, actually, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. Yeah. Traditionally, when you are actually picking an Upanayana muhurta, they do see father star also. If you know the father star, we can actually see what is the, not just star, if you have the chart, you can see for example, here the Rajoga is happening in Pisces. What is Pisces in his chart? You can do some analysis. If you have access to that information, you can use it. But the thing is, the main consideration should be the sun. This is for sun's spiritual progress.
When the person giving it,
Yes.
good, I think it's
Yes.
it's just like
You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right.
But in a totally
Right.
different sense.
This is a marriage is actually both are. It's not one person giving, another person taking. Marriage is both people are actually going together now. They are walking together. Here, one person is transferring something. Whatever he has, he is transferring it to his son and that's it. After that, his role is ending. I mean, it may continue in some cases, but his main role is to give something, assuming he is capable of giving. But the thing is, if the father has no sadhana, if he is not actually capable of giving anything, then it is irrelevant. But if he is actually a sadhaka himself, how is the time for actually initiating, finding a Shishya, transferring some punya to the Shishya? That is very relevant.
But in this case, the father himself is a very detached, very big sadhaka.
Oh, then
So
the
in fact, he may even surpass the muhurta for him. He might even be out of that realm.
if he is, then that's a different matter. If the father is really of that caliber, good. But the thing is, as an astrologer, you can actually look at the father's chart and see how the transits are. Do you know what is his father's star or lagna? Okay, if you know, we can see what is the impact on fathers. Also, the thing is, when something like, when you are giving a mantra to somebody, assuming that you have some level of siddhi in that mantra, you are actually, whether you want it or not, you will end up transferring some of that siddhi to the person. Siddhi is actually a very heavy word. People have different connotations from that word. Siddhi is basically some level of attainment, accomplishment with that mantra. Suppose you are talking about a food. You have eaten that food, you know how it tastes, you know various ins and outs of that food, then you have siddhi in that food. Like that, basically you understand the mantra, you understand what it can do, what experience it can give, you have experienced it. That is basically siddhi. So, and the ultimate siddhi in a mantra is basically you are done with that mantra. You know whatever that mantra can do, whatever you understand the deity of the mantra itself, what experience it can give, you have understood. The mantra is useless to you anymore. That is the ultimate siddhi, that is the final siddhi. But understanding it to some extent is basically siddhi. So assuming he has it, he is basically giving it away. And usually people have siddhi in just a handful of mantras or maybe none also. You can't really get siddhi in every mantra. You will experience only some mantra with which you have a strong runa, you have done in the past a lot. So it is basically like your staple food. You may be doing hundreds of mantras, but there will be one or two mantras in which you really have siddhi. So all your spiritual food, spiritual energy is coming from chanting of those mantras. So if you give away some of it to somebody, some spiritual foundation of your being is being lost. So that can cause some problems for you. So from that point of view, the father, irrespective of his attainment, it can have, when he finds a Shishya who is capable of taking a lot. If Shishya is not capable, he may not be able to take a lot. But if Shishya is capable of taking a lot at one go, in the first bite itself he can bite a big chunk, then it can have some impact on father's health or father's mental state, etc. also. So it's not a bad idea to look at father. So his point is very valid. But in the absence of that information, you can just look at the sun's nakshatra and give the muhurta. And we actually looked at only Maha Nakshatra. If you see his chart, how is his Ashtaka Varga, what are the important signs in his natal Vinshamsa, natal Navamsa, natal Rasi. You have a yoga between Mercury, Venus, Sun here. Do they have an important role in his chart, or are they evil planets in his chart? And Pisces, what kind of sign or house is it in the natal Rasi, natal Navamsa, natal Vinshamsa? So all these factors can be analyzed, but unfortunately we don't have the data, so we'll just leave it. But you can do that as an exercise.
It takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it does. Right.
You're already getting a common date.
Right. But the thing is, my feeling is April 4, 2009, 10:10 a.m. is a pretty good muhurta. It's a very good muhurta. Yeah. So Atmakarka is Jupiter, he is in Navamsa Lagna. And actually Atmakarka in Lagna is basically a combination for a very rich person. Atmakarka, if he is in Navamsa Lagna, it shows somebody who has a royal birth. Somebody who is very lucky, very fortunate basically. Somebody born with a golden spoon in the mouth. Here we are talking about a spiritual initiation chart. So if he can actually make this muhurta, or any muhurta where Atmakarka is in Navamsa Lagna, it means he is born with a spiritual, with a golden spoon as far as spiritual sadhana is concerned. So if this muhurta can actually work out for them, it means what you said about the father is probably true. It confirms that.
So this muhurta is to when the father is giving the Gayatri mantra, or is starting of the procedure?
No.
Father is giving the
Gayatri Mantropadesha should happen at this time.
Okay.
You may do 5 minutes of ritual before or 5 hours of ritual, I don't care. All that is secondary. Right. Some people actually do that. Unfortunately, some people, they start, actually most people don't start at the muhurta, they start before, but at the time, they don't do the Mantropadesha, they put some, the Jalakarra Bellam, basically jaggery and cumin seed paste, they put on the head. They do that for marriage as well as for Upanayam, for many things they do that. So they do that thing, which is not really symbolic of certain things, but it doesn't really transfer the mantra. The transfer of the mantra, hearing of the mantra in the ear is actually the key. So that should be happening. Ideally, that should be happening in this Navamsa Lagna.
So in my region, they do
Yeah.
this type of thing.
Yeah, everywhere they do that. Unless you specifically tell the priest, sir, please, at that time we want Mantropadesha. Then also some priests basically are stubborn and say, no, that's not right, this is how you should do. So people like my father who are very strong, who have son in Lagna, they say, no, get lost, you must do this, otherwise get lost. I will do it myself. Then they will basically listen and do. Otherwise many priests are actually, they don't understand. Even for marriage, they basically do all kinds of things at that muhurta. They don't do the right thing. Any other questions? So this seems like a good muhurta. Good luck to the kid. Good luck to, how old is he?
20,
Oh, quite old. Not really a boy. Okay.
24, 25.
Okay. Never too late. Good. All the best. The only thing I will suggest is the main weakness in this muhurta is Jupiter Rahu, the Guru Chandala Yoga, which can't be avoided. That too, Guru Chandala Yoga in the 9th house of Dharma with Rahu fallen there, the 9th house. Dharma Karma, he has Manakaraka Sthana in the 9th house. Jupiter's presence is a savior, but then he is also in Nicha. So when Jupiter and Rahu are afflicted like this, praying to sun basically, praying to Shiva or praying to sun will give some relief. So before the muhurta, have Aditya Hridayam chanted or any sun mantra basically, not the Gayatri mantra but some other sun mantra. Have Aditya Hridayam and something of Shiva chanted, some Shiva mantra and Aditya Hridayam chanted before the muhurta. That will help overcome the weakness in the muhurta, because it's not a perfect muhurta, it has some weakness.
Related to this, looking at the chart, when we should start, when we should do the Gayatri mantra.
Yeah.
How do we decide based on the Drigdasha?
Well, you can see Drigdasha, you can just see transits. How are the transits right now compared to Mantrapada A5? What are the transits with respect to A5? Anybody aspecting A5 in transit like Jupiter or somebody? So you can look at all those things.
Because some people do at the age of 3, 7,
Right.
10.
Also there are formulas. You can do, for example, 7th year, like that basically. Some people do 9th year. So there are odd years you do. Some people say even years you do in some parts of India. There are some conventions, you basically use those conventions to decide the month. And then you use, usually they do in the Uttarayana. They don't do in the Dakshinayana. The theory being Uttarayana is the day of gods and Dakshinayana is the night of gods. So you want to do it when gods are active basically. They are awake and active, not when gods are sleeping. They won't listen to you and if you pray to them at that time. But the thing is, these are, of course there is some truth in it, but no single factor is absolute. So they pick Uttarayana and then they pick, within the Uttarayana they pick a good month, they pick a Shukla Paksha instead of Krishna Paksha, they pick closer to Purnima. Like that if you do basically, you have very few choices. And then it also must be a good Tara, good Nakshatra, everything should line up. The only problem I have is, lot of people, they do all these things, but when it comes to the actual muhurta, which planet is in the 5th house, which planet is in the 9th house, they don't look at that unfortunately. A lot of people, they just go by thumb rules. But that is the real key. Any other questions? Okay. So all the best to your, so they live in Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Okay. Good luck. So with that I will end the class.